On this Sunday night, the final hours before a long-awaited hostage exchange in the Middle East. The surge of humanitarian aid entering Gaza while Israel counts down to the release of the remaining hostages and thousands of Palestinian prisoners set to be freed in return.
We can go back to living. We can finally grieve.
The U.S. president travels to the region to seal the deal. To drop or not to drop? How tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles are pitting Canada's political leaders against each other. And an underwater mystery in Manitoba. Who left a graveyard of vehicles in the Red River?
Global National, reporting tonight, Nitu Garcha.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. In just hours, all remaining hostages held by Hamas in Gaza are expected to be released to Israel. U.S. President Donald Trump, who played a leading role in ceasefire negotiations, left for Tel Aviv late this afternoon.
This is a very special event. There are 500,000 people yesterday and today in Israel, and also the Muslim and Arab countries are all cheering. Everybody's cheering at one time. That's never happened before.
Trump is expected to meet with hostages and their families before heading to Egypt to sign the peace deal. Global News has learned Prime Minister Mark Carney will also attend the signing ceremony. He's leaving for Egypt tonight. And in Gaza, much-needed aid is now pouring in. Our Jeff Semple reports from Tel Aviv.
For the first time in many months, humanitarian aid is now flowing freely into Gaza. Egypt said 400 truckloads were rolling across its border, expected to ramp up to 600 trucks per day, the amount the UN says is needed to feed the hungry, with 50,000 children facing acute malnutrition. Besides aid, we also need safety and security, says Palestinian Khalid Abudin. The aid convoys form part of the first phase of Gaza's new ceasefire deal that will culminate Monday morning in a tense exchange. Buses lined up outside Israeli jails to transport nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners and detainees who are set to be released. In return, Hamas has agreed to free its remaining Israeli hostages, 20 of whom are still alive, including American-Israeli Omri Moran. He was taken hostage from his home in front of his wife and two young daughters, now aged 4 and 2. His wife shared this image of Moran's daughters packing their bags to meet their dad.
We had to try and frame it in a way that they understand that their daddy might be returning home soon.
Families will be reunited at this hospital.
So this is a typical room for the hostage,
where staff are preparing to treat a range of complex needs after 2 years in captivity.
We thought about even the lighting, because after you've been 700 days in tunnels, maybe your eyes, it will be difficult for them to adjust to the light.
This unit was specially designed back in January, the first time some of the hostages were released.
Very, very glad to say, hopefully this is the last time we're hoping this special unit. And now the nightmare will be over.
In addition to welcoming the hostages, Israel is also preparing to receive a U.S. president.
Thank you, Trump!
This Israeli actor dressed as Donald Trump to entertain the crowds in Hostages Square. But Israeli support for the U.S. president is no joke.
Israel may be the only Western country around the world that Trump was very popular.
Israel is blanketed in Trump tributes. The American president is arriving here tomorrow to greet the hostages' families and address Israeli parliament. For months, opinion polls have shown Israelis want to end the war and bring the hostages home, which Trump is now delivering. This political expert says even liberal Israelis now support him.
We look at mostly at his foreign policy, which is a peacemaker. I will end the wars, I will bring peace to the region. And you know, the leaders in Israel do not speak in terms of peace for many years now. Netanyahu has, he just took the word peace out of the lexicon here.
After a very quick stop here in Israel, Trump will then head to Egypt, where he'll gather with other world leaders, including Canada's, for what the White House is calling a Middle East peace ceremony. Nithu?
Jeff Semple in Tel Aviv. Thanks, Jeff. As the ceasefire deal holds in the Middle East, war rages on in Ukraine as the country continues to battle Russia's invasion. In Russian-controlled Donetsk, the region was bombarded by dozens of Ukrainian drones overnight, setting fire to this shopping center. There's no word on any casualties. The attacks come as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he recently talked with U.S. President Trump about strengthening air defenses. Prime Minister Mark Carney's office says he also called Zelensky yesterday to discuss how to help defend Ukraine's energy infrastructure as winter approaches. We now turn to South and Central Asia, where violence is escalating between Afghanistan and Pakistan. Clashes erupted along the border between both countries overnight. Pakistan claims it killed more than 200 Afghan Taliban and allied fighters, while Afghanistan says it killed 58 Pakistani soldiers. None of those numbers have been independently verified. Candice Cole reports on the bloodshed and where the conflict could be heading.
Dozens of soldiers were killed in a heavy exchange of gunfire along the Afghan-Pakistani border Sunday, following airstrikes on Kabul in eastern Afghanistan by Pakistani forces Thursday. Tensions between the two nations have been on the rise since the Taliban assumed power in Afghanistan in 2021. They further escalated after Islamabad accused the Taliban of harboring militants who've carried out attacks against Pakistan inside of Afghanistan and demanding the Taliban take action. Afghanistan's Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muttaqi said during a news conference Sunday the fighting between the two stopped because Saudi Arabia and Qatar stepped in. He said they achieved their military operation and want, quote, zero tension, but have other ways of handling the situation if Pakistan refuses to engage in dialogue. As Pakistan's Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar expressed concern over what he called unprovoked firing along the border, a serious provocation by the Taliban government. As a result of the retaliatory fighting, Pakistan has closed its border crossings with Afghanistan, leaving many stranded. This Afghan refugee says he's stuck there along with women, children, and the elderly, where there is no food, no water, and no money to survive on, even for a few days. According to Amnesty International, over 1 million Afghan refugees have been forced to leave Pakistan since introducing its illegal foreigners repatriation plan in 2023. In a statement, Saudi Arabia has called for restraint between the two nations, and Iran has said it's ready to help ease tensions as well. Candice Cole, Global News, Washington.
In Madagascar, an apparent coup is underway after an elite unit took control of the country's military and began backing anti-government protesters. The CAPSAT military unit says they now command the entire army by air, land, or sea and intend to restore public order and the daily lives of all Malagasy people. They have taken the side of demonstrators who've been protesting for weeks, angry about corruption and the high cost of living. In a statement, Madagascar's president calls it an illegal and forceful attempt to seize power. His current whereabouts are unknown. There are new pleas from 2 prairie provinces for the federal government to scrap its tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. Both the premiers of Manitoba and Saskatchewan argue doing so could help Beijing reconsider its damaging levies on key exports like canola. But as Jillian Piper reports, the Prime Minister is also facing calls to disregard those demands.
This year has tested and strengthened the bonds that we share as Canadians.
Prime Minister Mark Carney pitching unity in a Thanksgiving message.
We have our challenges and our differences, but we're strongest when we're united.
But division is growing within Team Canada. Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew telling Ottawa to scrap its levy on Chinese electric vehicles to entice Beijing to drop its tariffs on Canadian canola and pork, writing to Carney, seized the opportunity presented by recent remarks from the Chinese ambassador to Canada. He indicated that China is prepared to lift its tariffs on Canadian canola and pork if Canada removes the 100% tariff on Chinese-made electric vehicles. Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe also pushing Carney to scrap the EV duty, writing, "It's time for Ottawa to get this deal done on behalf of 200,000 Canadian workers." Ontario Premier Doug Ford not on board. instead asking Ottawa to keep the EV tariff in place last month, but this international trade lawyer says it's a big burden on Canadian agriculture.
We're asking farmers to take it in the teeth for something that really isn't being produced in Canada yet.
All of the political infighting may be helpful for Beijing.
Obviously, China knows what sectors to squeeze to get a rise out of Canadian politicians.
Carney has not signaled that Canada will blink first on tariffs.
We have begun more intense engagement with China with respect, first and foremost, to canola and other agriculture and seafood products. It's too early to come to any conclusions on those.
And Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre agrees that the EV levy should stay.
China wants these electric vehicles to be roving surveillance operations on our streets.
As Ottawa debates its next move in the trade war, Canadian canola farmers are feeling the pain, Neetu, with Statistics Canada data showing Saskatchewan's canola exports to China fell by 76% in August compared to the same time last year.
All right, Jillian Piper in Ottawa. Thanks, Jillian. The European Union is rolling out a new system for foreign travelers, including Canadians entering nearly 30 countries. Starting today, the new biometric entry-exit system will begin replacing traditional passport stamp procedures. Travelers will be required to scan their passports and have their fingerprints and photograph taken. The EU will gradually introduce the new system over 6 months. Delays are expected, but authorities hope it will eventually offer a more streamlined process. Mystery beneath the surface. Coming up, a graveyard of underwater vehicles in a Manitoba river.
Oh no, 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 no! Oh my God, oh my God!
Scary scenes in California where a helicopter spiraled out of control and crashed into palm trees. It happened at Huntington Beach on Saturday, about an hour southeast of Los Angeles. No one was killed, but 5 people were taken to hospital. So far, there's no word on what caused the crash. A graveyard of underwater vehicles has been discovered in a river north of Winnipeg. The RCMP is investigating who owned them and how they ended up there. Melissa Ridgen reports on the salvage operation and the mystery submerged in the muddy waters.
A hefty tow truck on the dock, divers in the Red River below, and residents of Selkirk, Manitoba wondering what's up. Divers with Submerged Underwater Services had been training off this popular fishing spot and stumbled, literally, onto a pile of vehicles.
It's Dakota going in the water.
Manitoba Public Insurance asked them to dive deeper into the mystery to find answers.
Just put a bite in your rigging there. So you put the chain through and then through the wheel, and then the chain will go through both of your master links, and then you can choke it that way.
Diver Dakota Gunderson can't see a thing. He's guided to a pickup truck with the help of sonar.
It seems like both windows are smashed, or at least went down. So passenger side is clear. Driver's side it's pretty much up to the steering wheel.
He rigs up the wreck so a crane can do the rest.
He's just going a little slow right now. There's fish hooks everywhere. It gets to be a bad day when you flood your suit.
RCMP are also interested in what's recovered.
We should be getting her here hopefully pretty soon.
Right on.
Yeah.
Look forward to seeing it.
6 hours of work for this. Under tar-like mud encrusted in zebra mussels is a well-preserved 2001 truck with plates and a VIN number intact. The Indigenous-owned company has deep cultural ties to the Red River and is committed to recovering the remaining vehicles.
So if you've got oil or trans fluid or gas that's soaked into something, then the fish are eating it, then obviously that could be consumed by a person. So and that's where it's nice to just get this stuff out. People are going to realize that, maybe jumping your cars into the river is not ideal, and they're going to be found. So if you made a claim or told the cops one thing, they could be knocking on your door 10, 20 years down the road.
RCMP tell Global News it'll be much sooner than that. As many as 7 vehicles will be pulled from what someone wrongly assumed would be a final parking spot. Melissa Ridgen, Global News, Winnipeg.
Ahead, ahead, a hurting harvest. Why it's a bad season for good apples in some parts of Canada. The first nor'easter of the fall is barreling up the Atlantic coast. New Jersey has declared a state of emergency with the forecast calling for winds up to 100 kilometers per hour and 120 millimeters of rain. The storm is expected to bring coastal flooding and power outages through Monday. From Ontario to Atlantic Canada, it's been a beautiful fall day, perfect for heading to the local pumpkin patch or an apple orchard. But near Montreal, the long stretch of dry weather has resulted in reduced crop yields. Dan Spector reports.
It's prime apple picking season at Quinn Farm just west of Montreal, but Phil Quinn says his trees might be bare by the end of Thanksgiving weekend.
Usually we're picking apples right through to November. Some of those later varieties go right through to November and they hold on. This year, not the case.
There has barely been any rain for months now, creating drought conditions. And the clear, sunny weather has brought plenty of people to U-Pick apple orchards, so he and many others are getting cleaned out.
This year, it's a little bit fewer numbers, and then the size is smaller because of the monumental drought we've had.
In 2024, apple growers celebrated the most abundant crop in nearly 2 decades. Winter was mild and the summer was rainy, but this year's crop has faced challenging weather.
It was quite cold last winter, and then crazy drought all summer long.
Jérôme-Antoine Brunel says this year's production is average compared to last year's monumental abundance. The lack of water means more small and medium apples, fewer big ones.
If growers have an irrigation system, then it's fine. We have lots of fruit and we have good size, but in certain orchards, certain regions, the lack of water did affect the harvest.
Phil Quinn is thankful that he does have an extensive irrigation system, but some of his neighbors do not. Brunel says older orchards are usually not equipped with irrigation, and they're the ones suffering most from the drought.
Not apple growers have the capacity to invest in these new systems that will lead us to the future of apple production in Quebec. And we've been voicing this as a concern to the provincial government for almost 3 years now.
Quinn and many other farmers are being forced to adapt to the changing climate.
We're drilling a very expensive well to be able to cope throughout the next drought.
The apple growers assure there will be no shortage of apples in grocery stores, and that even if your local farmer does run out of shiny reds, they'll be ready with something big and orange. Dan Spector, Global News, Montreal.
And that is Global National for this Sunday night. I'm Neetu Garcha. Tonight's Your Canada showcases Pointe de Bout, New Brunswick, St. Anthony, Newfoundland and Labrador, and Waterton Lakes National Park, Alberta. Keep them coming. Send your pictures of Canadian pride to globalnational@globalnews.ca. Thanks so much for watching. Donna will be back with you tomorrow. Have a great night.